What's up, Buttercups? Welcome to the show. With me, Brian McWilliams, here to lay the truth on you in the various ways you like to do it, with a plank upside the head or with a Hershey's Kiss gently drooled into your mouth as you're unconscious. Anyway, we're going to hop into it. I have an unbelievably busy day and week this week. I just had to watch a crazy long webinar, like a pharmaceutical webinar for my job, and damned if I understood a single thing they said, but I'll figure a way out to write a release about it. Don't you worry. Anyway, let's get into it and talk about, first and foremost, Bernie Sanders. I have met a lot of people that enjoy Bernie Sanders, that think that, I mean, really, when he ran for president before the Democratic Party completely screwed him, which was hilarious in hindsight, really hilarious at the time being, in lieu of Hillary Clinton pushing her forward, doing all sorts of shenaniganism behind the scenes to screw old Bernie. And then seeing Bernie, as he always does, roll over like a bitch and go, oh, I support Hillary Clinton. She's a wonderful lady, just like he does every time with every candidate. He's got no morals. He will always toe the line. He'll always do what's convenient to stay in his role, his nice cushy role as the socialist / commie that's resided in Congress forever and does absolutely nothing. So Bernie has been handed really the ultimate opportunity, right? If you're Bernie Sanders, you've been running the same scam since you got into office, which I think he's been in office like 40 years now. The man's never had an actual job other than this. And the good people of Vermont, of course, being the doofus they are, doofusai, right? Plural. I hate doofusai to poofusais. They just continue to buy his grift and continue to push him forward into our lies so he can whine about what? Yell it at your TVs. Say it in your gym as you're listening to the podcast. Yes, of course. Whine about the billionaires and the oligarchs, right? What better world do you need to live in than Bernie Sanders, where Elon Musk is now, quote unquote, running the country, right? This is what all these Democrats want to say. They want us to believe that Elon Musk is, in fact, the default president. I believe there was even a hacking done at one of the government organizations that showed Donald Trump utilizing some AI technology, maybe even Grok, but seeing Donald Trump lick Elon Musk's toes with the text reading that he hail at the true king or something like that. So Bernie Sanders sees an opportunity to grift, and he'll be damned if he's not going to take it. So let's take a quick look here at Bernie Sanders' latest grift, which, you know, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's the exact same grift, but let's just listen to Bernie here. Here you go. Play it again, Bernie.
I am once again asking for your financial
support.
Again. I don't have to tell anyone.
I am. I'm going to pause it going through here because it's so ridiculous. I am once again. How many times is this, Bernie, that you're once again begging for money? You're a man worth $3 million. You've done nothing but sit on your ass and whine about millionaires and sell books. But please continue, Bernie. And I love he does these stupid things. Oh, because I'm a man of the people. I'm going to wear a shirt and a coat that's too big for me. And I'm not going to wear a hat because I have fostered my signature Bernie look like Christopher Lloyd in Back to the Future. I'm going to walk down this slowly in the park and I'm going to talk into the camera so that you can appreciate how serious I am.
Anybody that we're living in dangerous and unprecedented times. We are fighting now against the oligarchs, Elon Musk and the others who are essentially running the government.
How great is it if you're Bernie Sanders that you get a new word in your lexicon? Not just the billionaires and the millionaires, but no, the oligarchs. Doesn't have the same ring to it, Bern. Hate to tell you. But what are you going to do, Bernie? What do you need our cash for this time?
The richest people in the world. We're taking on Trump's movement toward authoritarianism, putting more and more power into his own hands, undermining the Congress, challenging the courts, not knowing what the Constitution is about.
Not knowing what the Constitution is about. Well, I'll tell you this. I will say I do have some problem with the way in which Donald Trump is going about this. Executive orders are not great. Although I have to say the balancing act of that being reining in government spending, exposing the fraud, exposing the grift, exposing all of the these people that are involved within the federal government that have been grifting, getting blank paychecks handed out of them, doing nothing, paying their friends off, basically giving donations and grants through USAID to their friends and loved ones. A new story comes out every day of a new senator, I think one I just saw from Wisconsin. We're going to talk more about Wisconsin later, but gave something like $2.4 million to his wife, her charity, out of 34 million in grants, and her salary is $2.4 million. Wonderful. But still, Bernie wants us to know that Donald Trump doesn't understand the Constitution. Neither does Bernie Sanders, obviously, because he thinks healthcare is a human right. That's nowhere in the Constitution, Bernie. Slavery is not in the Constitution, Bern. At least it was not intended to be. So anyway, keep going, Bernie.
We are right now engaged in a major struggle to make sure that the Congress does not pass legislation which gives massive tax breaks to billionaires and then cuts Medicaid, education, and programs. Asking for your
I just accidentally hit backwards. Now, real quick, I want to point out Donald Trump did say that Medicaid would not be touched, and Social Security wouldn't be touched. Now, I have a problem with that because I want it to be touched. I want it to be heavily touched. I want it to be, large black man with a deep voice serenading me on a velour couch, deeply touched, is how badly I want Social Security and Medicaid to be gone after. And of course, we know that Social Security is being gone after. They're looking into all of these potentially fraudulent payments to people that have been long dead. I still don't know exactly what's going on with that. We've heard reports that apparently the way in which the algorithm within the system works, they take certain things and they assign it a category that makes it look like people are 150 years old getting payments. I don't know. What I do know is I can assure you there is rampant fraud in Social Security and in Medicaid. But Bernie Sanders wants us to know that this is a big problem.
Undermining the Congress, challenging the courts, not knowing what the Constitution is about. We are right now engaged in a major struggle to make sure that the Congress does not pass legislation which gives massive tax breaks to billionaires and then cuts Medicaid, education, and programs that working families desperately need. I am going to be running around this country along with others to rally the American people, to continue the fight for justice, to stand up to Trump and the authoritarianism that we are seeing. To be successful.
Let's not forget, by the way, Bernie Sanders voted against every single nominee that is trying to actually do something to combat authoritarianism. The authoritarianism of a censorship complex, the authoritarianism of an overburning tax system of 87,000 IRS agents, an authoritarian system that wanted to look into how much your money, if a $600 Venmo payment, Bernie Sanders, all for it. All fucking for it, voted against every person that would try to rein that in, against Tulsi Gabbard. Votes against Tulsi Gabbard, even though he had supported her previously, votes against her, where she's in the role to actually try to rein in some of the worst atrocities committed against the American population that are against the Constitution, namely surveillance, namely search and seizure. No, Bernie Sanders doesn't really give a shit about that, guys. He only cares about Trump's authoritarianism.
Going to need your help. So please, if you can send
$27,
anything that you could afford, we'd much appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's the speech, right? Bernie Sanders is going to stop authoritarianism, guys, because he needs just $27 from you. Just $27 a day, and you can feed Bernie Sanders, get him fat enough to the point he can actually fill out his fucking clothing. This piece of shit sees an opportunity to grift, and like he always does, he's pouncing on it. Somebody tell me, what is Bernie Sanders going to accomplish by crisscrossing the country, him and a bunch of other Democrat douchebag cronies, to go and whine about whatever Trump's doing? What is he going to accomplish by hosting these rallies that can't be accomplished more effectively by actually taking legislative action, actually perhaps writing bills to try to rein things in or change things on Congress, on the Hill? Or maybe how about taking to the social medias? The social medias, Bernie, the tubes and the nets. We live in an era where information spreads faster and more effectively online. Bernie, maybe you should go on a podcast tour. maybe you should go and start your own web series highlighting where Trump exactly is crossing the line for his, congressional misgivings and grievances you might have against him. Maybe you can do it that way rather than holding rallies where you're going to say the same shit over and over again, which is that Trump's an authoritarian, and then you're going to ask people for more money to go hold more rallies. What's going to be effective about that? Nothing. But Bernie is going to use that to put money in his pocket, to continue his grift, and then I bet you at the end of the day, he's going to have a brand new book coming out that you could probably also buy for just $27. This man is one of the biggest pieces of shit that has ever walked the halls of Congress, by far. He has zero morals. He has zero, effectiveness. Look at what was Bernie Sanders ever accomplished? Ever. Nothing. Except then going along with the machine, forwarding his own, whatever, little minuscule Hall of Fame statue for socialists that have managed to stay in power for this long. Because, remember, socialists typically don't stay in power for as long as Bernie Sanders because the systems that they create around themselves fucking collapse. Bernie has the ability to continue to spout his nonsense because there's enough sane people around him to try to rein it in. And because as far as socialist as America has gone, it still hasn't gone full socialism. Otherwise, Bernie would be drinking out of a puddle and eating a dog. But this piece of dump wants $27 a year dollars to go and try to make America worse. God damn. Fuck Bernie Sanders. Ugh. Not many people I hate more than Bernie Sanders. All right, well, that was fun. Let's move on to people that don't want to ruin the country quite as much, but still want to ruin the country. Namely, let me share this. Actually, I don't need to share. In Wisconsin, the governor and some, nutbag leftist cronies once again can't read the room. And even worse, like I tweeted out, Jane Fonda's out there, just like, it's award season, guys, and the Oscars are coming up this Sunday. I'm going to probably watch out of obligation. I'm going to watch out of obligation to tell you guys how much I hate the Oscars and what I observed there. Other than like two films, Emilia Perez, which just looks like the biggest piece of, virtue signaling garbage, is winning all the awards so far. That's the one about a trans person in Mexico. And apparently all the trans people hate it because it makes trans people look bad. Apparently all the Mexican people hate it because it makes Mexico looks like a shithole. It's got all these musical numbers, which are cringy and embarrassing. But Zoe Saldana is really getting the awards. And the lead actress, quote unquote, who is a man, apparently was winning all this stuff, but now has been canceled because they found old racist tweets. And that's just hilarious. But I'm going to watch the Oscars. In the lead up to the Oscars, we have the SAG Awards and the Golden Globes and some other award show. At the SAG Awards, Jane Fonda was given the, your tits still don't SAG award. See what I did there? They should have that award. The SAG presents the Tits Don't SAG award. So Jane Fonda is out there. And Jane Fonda, of course, known as Hanoi Jane, taking a stand with the Vietnam War. So she's up there. And once again, because Hollywood cannot read the room, she's up there pretending that they are taking a stand, that they're the resistance, that they have to stand up strong. Actually, let me see. I'll try to find this real quick so I find the exact quote. But she's up there doing the same old crap that Hollywood does, which is pretending that somehow they're not the power. Here's the quote from Jane Fonda. "We are in our documentary moment. This is it, and it's not a rehearsal, and we mustn't for a moment kid ourselves about what is happening." And she tells everybody to resist, and she's holding her fist up in the air. Her fist up in the air. Jane Fonda, who, by the way, how is Jane Fonda winning a Lifetime Achievement Award? What has Jane Fonda done? She was in Barbarella and Three's Company, and then a Thigh Master commercial. Lifetime Achievement Award for what, Jane? For what? Again, tits don't sag. Somebody shake these people. Somebody make them understand they are the oppressors. Your time is over now. The revolution is happening. America has woken up. All of the crazy bullshit, all the COVID nonsense, all the trans nonsense you guys were pushing, all of the oppressive censorship, all of the authoritarian speeching or policing of speech, all of the cancellation, all of this new wave woke bullshit, all of the race baiting that you guys have been leading the way on and controlled culture with, controlled academia with, controlled politics with, it's gone. It's over. You dominated the culture for 40 years. You were the oppressors. You oppressed people so much that you got Donald Trump elected back into office, the man that you all hate so vehemently. You oppressors put your boots so fucking hard on everybody's necks and told them to love it while you did it. And now they're rising up and they still think they're the resistance. It's just, I mean, they don't wake up. You're going to hear so many more of these stupid speeches at the Oscars. And I'm interested to see what happens. Conan O'Brien's hosting. I'm curious to see if the people running the Oscars tell these people, look, shut the fuck up. Like, shut the fuck up. Don't go up there and be political. Don't go up there and make some long speech. We're going to cut you off. And I hope they do. I hope they cut these people off. You know, if you start going down some political goddamn bullshit bushwhacking campaign about Trump or about climate or about race or whatever it is, if I hear you say one fucking time, this is for all the people out there that look like me, cut them off. Cue the orchestra. It's time. Play them off. Because they just don't get it. They don't read the room. They never have. They never will. But at one point in time, they understood the culture enough, or at least the culture came to them enough, right? These hippies from the 60s, the culture was with them. They rode that into power. And then, as always, absolute power corrupts absolutely. They didn't look around and realize how insane they've gotten, how authoritarian. They'll tell you all day and all night that they're the ones who are oppressed, that God, they just need a chance, and that the world is cruel to people like them. Well, it's not. You've laughed at, derided, economically imposed sanctions on your own countrymen and women while telling them they were racist and bigots and not giving a flying shit about how they make their money while raising taxes, raising regulations, and laughing at them when they told you their problems. Well, chicken's coming home to roost. You can stick that skinny little veiny arm up in the air all you want, Jane. You can pretend you're the resistance. But the time has come. And I'll tell you, talk about not reading the room. In Wisconsin, as I was just leading into here, they have a lovely little governor who wants to put in the official language in budget and federal papers that there's no longer being mothers. That's going to be changed to inseminated person. So even though we're in an era where we're pushing back on this crap, Wisconsin, and I never understood how Wisconsin became so unbelievably left-wing. It boggles my mind, but they somehow are. Wisconsin is now changing mother to inseminated person, which frankly is a very wide swath. I mean, a lot of people can become inseminated and not be mothers. So, I mean, you can just, every federal regulation in Wisconsin now, you get one cream pie and you're legally a mother, I guess. It's all it takes. You can be walking by a homeless guy in the subway and it gets in your eye. Oh, you're technically, legally as good as a mother in Wisconsin because you have been inseminated. Cover your ear holes or else you might legally become a mother in Wisconsin. So they changed mother to inseminated person. They're changing paternity to patronage, father to natural parent. Now, this doesn't happen officially, and I'm guessing it'll be shot down. But and any use of man, woman will be referred to as person. But I still just can't get over your mandate has been rejected. And instead of saying, you know what, the vast majority of the country, just like all the polls you see, that the vast majority of the country, and I mean 80% of the country, is against this kind of shit, this nonsense, this wackadoo, let's pretend biology isn't a thing. Let's pretend mother and father isn't a term. Everybody hates this. I mean, same thing with like sports. The last poll that came out, and this is like a New York Times poll, 4 to 5 Americans strongly disagreed with men playing in women's sports. And you still have states like Wisconsin that are vehemently defending it, that they can't understand that they're wrong, that they're the bad guys, that what they're doing is ridiculously stupid, undermining to language, undermining to cultural, normativity, and unnecessary in every possible way. Because one dude who has a uterus, because that dude is technically a woman and biologically a woman, pretends to be a man and grows a beard, but still has a uterus and can have a baby. That's 1 in what? 15 million? So we're changing all of the language because of this one person. Fundamentally fucking stupid. Fundamentally stupid. And that's what the Democrats continue to push. And now they're doubling down on this shit in 2025. After Donald Trump has won this, after it's been clearly made apparent through every possible polling mechanism, the culture has rejected it, and these people simply cannot give up on it because they're in their ivory towers. They believe what they want to believe. They've been groomed by academia. They've been groomed by, these nonprofit organizations that USAID has handed out millions of dollars to try to corrupt the culture and corrupt the minds. Well, go down with the ship. That's all I can say to these people. Go down with the ship. I mean, accelerate it. I'd said this before, and I think I've been proven exactly correct. I said before, the fastest way to nip all this nonsense in the bud is actually to have it double down with cancel culture, with the idiocy. You need to have them accelerate it. And they did. They pushed, like I was saying before, they pushed so hard that it became so apparent to people how insane all of this was that the rejection came faster than I thought it would. And I mean, beautifully, we're on the verge of a renaissance. And I'll give Trump credit. I was talking to our Mufasa level members for our Patreon, which patreon.com/Lions of Liberty or lionsofliberty.locals.com. But I was talking to our high level Mufasa guys on the Zoom call last night. I mean, look, empires collapse because of debt. They collapse because they get away from a solidified currency and valued currency and into fiat currency and expansion of empire. And that's, of course, expansion of empire to any real extent typically comes along with fiat currency, right? Reining in the debt, which is what Donald Trump and Elon Musk apparently are trying to do, lowering the military expenditures, reining in the empire. Donald Trump, honestly, swear to God, might just be saving our country. And at a time when all the other nations are still racing full bore into the debt chasm, all of Europe might collapse pretty soon. War might be coming pretty soon because when you hit enough debt, when you have enough problems at home, and Europe has got problems galore between the refugee crisis, the debt crisis, the climate, quote unquote, crisis, which of course is an energy crisis because these people pretend there's a climate change issue and then they destroy their economies through energy measures, eliminating fossil fuels, and of course regulatory. Anyway, they're very close to being on the verge of war. I mean, this is, swear to God, honest. And Donald Trump at the time is trying to rein in militarism, trying to get rid of our debt, trying to rein in spending. That might make us, once again, as the rest of the world falls into disarray, one of the most powerful nations, one of the most stable nations on the planet. It might just assure that our survivability is 100%. We'll see, but that's the way it's going. And anybody that doesn't acknowledge that fact, doesn't understand history, needs to figure what the fuck out is going on. Because as much as you may hate some of the things Trump's doing, the vast majority of it is, number one, beneficial, and number two, absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. So keep that in mind. Okay, last thing here. I want to talk about James Bond and James Bondazon, as I had called it, because Amazon has now taken over control of the Bond franchise. Now, that is a horrible thing. If you're attuned to anything that Amazon has touched, you know that they are poison to franchises, almost as bad as Kathleen Kennedy, which, by the way, Kathleen Kennedy, supposedly on her way out of Disney. I think they're just going to freeze her in carbonite, so whenever they get a good franchise going again, they can thaw her out to ruin it. But make it lame and make it gay. Oops. But Amazon has so far completely ruined Lord of the Rings, right? They had the Rings of Power series, which I tried to watch. I tried. It was so horrendous, so awful. You know, typical, oh, put a girl boss in it, make it diverse, hire all the crappiest diverse writers you possibly can, have no plot, have no driving storyline other than look at this chick, she's so cool. Boring as shit. Just one of the worst pieces of dump I've ever seen in my life. And of course, it lost all its viewers like so many others did. Amazon now has gotten control of James Bond. Now, what's interesting about this is that I love James Bond, right? One of my favorite franchises. I did not like the last James Bond that came out. Again, it got a little too woke for me, but I, for decades, have loved it. It was one of the first things my father and I watched. Sean Connery's still the best Bond. But there's an interesting factoid, which many of you don't know, which is that A. McWilliams has cast all of the Bonds. For the last 40 years, all the Bonds cast by A. McWilliams, a relative, I'm presuming, of mine, named Debbie McWilliams. And Debbie McWilliams is not happy about Amazon taking over. She's, of course, over in Britain, but in a statement to Screen Daily, McWilliams has announced she is retiring from casting. The legendary casting director expresses appreciation for her time in working with the Broccoli family while working with talking about Doubts. So she's sad to say, or I'm sorry, this is her quote. I am sad to see the end of this era, but totally understand why it happened. Prior to Amazon acquiring MGM, Barbara and Michael had a good working relationship with the studio and held the final decisions. Producing a Bond film takes at least 2 years of their lives without much time for anything else. And with Michael retiring, I didn't think Barbara had the appetite to shoulder the burden alone. Looking at Amazon's previous theatrical films does not fill me with any great enthusiasm. If they mess with the essence of Bond, they risk alienating a huge audience. And of course, Amazon fucking will mess with the essence of Bond. Choosing the actor to fill the role is a huge task and not one I would hand over to subscribers of X. Her reference there is because Jeff Bezos posted a poll asking people what they wanted to see in a James Bond. Now, James Bond traditionally has been chosen from people that were not your top of bill actors. Even at the time, Sean Connery was not well known. He was in like Darby O'Gill and the Little People, where he was fucking around with leprechauns. He wasn't a massive actor when they chose him. He was obviously hugely iconic. Roger Moore wasn't huge either. Timothy Dalton. It was, and even Daniel Craig, not huge. Have been in a couple movies like Layer Cake. Not expected to be Bond. So Henry Cavill probably not going to be chosen, or would not have been chosen by these people as Bond, nor Idris Elba. I think the guy from this stars in The Gentleman, which is a great series that's on, what is it, Netflix? He'd be a great Bond, but even he might be too obvious. Point being, Amazon posting it on X, they're probably going to go with something that's very generic, very obvious, and she's not a fan of that. She says she's worked closely with with Barbara and Michael for 40 years, traveling all over the world. I've hung up my casting hat, but it won't be the same. So, Debbie McWilliams, I think you're right. Amazon's going to fuck this up. James Bondazon is going to suck shit. Amazon does not know how to make anything good. They simply don't. Every movie they've made that I've seen, at least, has been terrible, bland, boring, and the travesty that was what they did with The Lord of the Rings, as I mentioned, unforgivable. So let's look forward to a new trans, non-binary, quote-unquote female James Bond as dictated by the left-wing activists on X. Maybe Jeff Bezos will marry the lead and, divorce him, and they can go start a charity for whatever for another $500 billion. We'll see. All right, that's it, guys. I got to get back to work. Thanks for watching. Remember, you can support us at Patreon or at Locals. Make sure to follow us at Lions of Liberty Network and get all of our content by subscribing to the feed, and go and like us and hit notify on the socials, because we are shadow banned and you will not see the content otherwise. All right, that's it from me, Brian McWilliams from the Lions of Liberty. And for me, Teenage Daydream, keep those electric eyes on me, babe. And keep that ray gun to my head. Bye.